The UEFA Champions League round of 16 is upon us. Liverpool made light work of the league phase, but now face a daunting task, taking on an in-form Paris Saint-Germain side. They no longer rely on footballing flamboyance. Luis Enrique has built a side that's industrious, explosive and very hard to beat. Added to that, we kick off this tie in the Parc des Princes. Tonight is going to be a serious examination of Arne Slot's side. It's an 8 o'clock kick-off in the UK, 9 local time, and that is when we will have live audio commentary of all the action right here on LFC TV. Welcome along to Matchday Live. David James and David Thompson are with me in the studio. Before we hear from the boys, let's get straight to the French capital and to Rob Jones, who has the details of the Liverpool team for tonight. Rob.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. European game number 450 for Liverpool tonight, and it comes after a very rare week off as well since that victory over Newcastle last Wednesday. Well, from that team, Arne Slot makes just the one change this evening. It comes at left-back. Costas Tsimikas is replaced by Andy Robertson. So the Liverpool team in full. Alisson has kept back-to-back clean sheets for the first time since December. It's a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate, born in Paris, the scorer of Liverpool's first Champions League goal of this season, alongside Virgil van Dijk and Robertson. In front of that, Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister, one of 4 Liverpool players who's one booking away from missing the second leg, with Dominic Szoboszlai just in front of that. Then the front three, Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota and Mo Salah, who starts the night level with Thierry Henry in 10th on the all-time goal scorers list in the Champions League on 51. There is no Cody Gakpo for Liverpool as expected, but the likes of Darwin Núñez, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott and Federico Chiesa all in reserve. Let's speak to a man who knows all about winning this competition. Steve McManaman is alongside me. We talked a lot during this new league phase about what it might mean to win it. Well, it's meant a very tough game in the round of 16 for Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool have got no benefit at all from winning it, have they? Because, of course, they had that rearranged fixture against Everton, and then they got shoehorned in the Aston Villa game because they got to a final. Weirdly, they brought it back towards, that week. So, they've rolled on. Liverpool. They're in excellent form. But yes, when you look at some of the fixtures that have turned out in this knockout phase, Liverpool away at Paris Saint-Germain is not necessarily an easy one, is it?
Well, how tough a tie then do you make it? Because we were just talking before we came on that, yes, it's tough, but they finished outside that bracket of the top 8 for a reason, clearly.
Yes, they did. They struggled early on. They're better now, aren't they? Like a lot of teams, after Christmas, after January, they jump up and their level of form has improved since Dembele's been back in the team, and he's been exceptional. And he's starting to find a little bit more of a consistent final ball. His delivery's better, so he's certainly a threat. They've got a lot of pace, but Liverpool qualified first for the reason, and they're top of the Premier League by 13 points. Paris Saint-Germain are top of Ligue 1 by 13 points as well, but I think Liverpool, with their experience, I think should get a job done tonight.
Just on the draw as a whole then, with both hats on, did you feel that Liverpool would have thought, oh, that's the last team we wanted in our half, with Real Madrid also being there?
I think so. It was going to be either PSG or Benfica, with no disrespect to Benfica, but I think they were slightly weaker than Paris Saint-Germain, the form that they're in at the moment. So yeah, they'll feel slightly hard done by, but you know what it's like. You have to beat everybody if you're going to win this. If you're going to win this competition, you would say this side of the bracket, with Arsenal, with Real Madrid coming, with Atletico, is harder than the other side. But again, in the end, you have to beat the best teams, and the best teams are still here.
Do you think that the way Liverpool approach the tie and the Champions League has changed at all, given how far they are now ahead in the Premier League?
No, I don't think so. I think that it speaks for itself. You want to win every game, you want to play well, you want a level of consistency to take into your next game. Liverpool's form of late against Manchester City and against Newcastle, they almost coasted to those victories. They were very, very comfortable. They looked a real strong outfit at how they controlled and managed the game. So I think tonight is just another test, albeit it's away from home. Crowd will be raucous, but you know what? That's what you feed off. The best players feed off that type of atmosphere, and it'll be more raucous at Anfield next week.
Let's talk about Mo Salah. You'd have played alongside plenty who've lifted the Ballon d'Or in recent times. A lot of discussion about him being the big favourite at the moment. Would you go along with that?
Well, yeah, he's certainly one of them. If you look across Europe, there's probably Lewandowski scored more goals than him, and Barca at the top of the league. Harry Kane scored more goals than him. Not assists, but more goals than him, and they're top of the league. So as a lot of people have contested, it's probably all down to the Champions League. I think Bayern will win their league. They're 8 clear. Barca are tight with Atletico and Real. You know, Paris Saint-Germain are way clear as well. But certainly those 3 people, if they win the league and add the Champions League, they'll probably edge ahead of each other. But unfortunately, everybody's waiting to see if someone lifts this, and let's hope it's Mo.
Any surprise with the team that Arne Slot's picked tonight?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we all knew. I think we thought Andy Robert had come back in for Tsimikas. The midfield 3 and the forwards with Cody Gakpo missing out. I think it's understandable, really. They're in really good form, as I mentioned. You just throw them back out and ask for the same again, don't you, really? It's not necessarily hard for Arne Slot, the way they've been playing of late.
Just on the point about form, the one you would say who does need a good night and needs a goal is Diogo Jota at the moment, who looked at a fraction short of confidence against Newcastle. Yeah,
maybe. I think it'll come. He gets himself in some lovely positions, but when you go 1 game, 2 games, 3 games without a goal as a centre forward or as a forward player, people always focus on that. So yeah, it'll come. It might just be one, fired off his behind or one off the back of his head, but it'll come because he puts himself in some wonderful positions. He's a real natural goal scorer, so I've got no qualms or any worries about Diogo Jota.
Steve, great to have you with us.
Nice
Thank you very much indeed. The one other difference, I guess, from the Newcastle game a week ago is that Arne Slot will be back down on the touchline, having served the first of that 2-game ban in the Premier League against Newcastle a week ago.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks to Steve as well. Gents, good evening. Good to see you again. It's a big one. This is where it really starts to sharpen people's attention. And there is a different dynamic, isn't there, to the games at this point, JMO, when it is knockout football, no second chances.
No, I think for Arne, I likened it to the Tottenham game in the Carabao Cup with the 2 games there. The first result or the first game is not the important one. It's obviously the second one. It depends on what you've got to make up or what you've got to defend. And having that 1-0 deficit against Tottenham, there was always questions, wasn't there, that can Liverpool do it in the second leg? And they did. I know PSG probably slightly better than Tottenham, but same principles apply. You got 2 games to get through.
Is that difficult to manage as a player in a game, though, because you get caught up in the here and now and you forget that actually there's a bigger picture? You maybe chase the game, you do things you don't need to do, you push it? I'm
going to get out of the way early, having played in this stadium in a semi-final for Liverpool and not thinking about it as a 2-legged affair, thinking about it as 1 game each and not quite getting it right in the first one. Yeah, it can be hard. But I think, as I say, using that Tottenham example as good experience for a group of players who are having a fantastic season, I think they'll look at it as 2 legs. Okay, make sure the first one's not too bad.
There was a casualness about the first leg against Tottenham, I think, because we knew we were going to bring him back to Anfield. He was super confident. I don't think we'll be as casual today.
The game that JMO was referring to, in case you hadn't picked on it, was the game against PSG in the Cup Winners' Cup semis in 1997. Yeah,
I've tried to erase as much of it.
3-0 Paris were in the first leg when Liverpool maybe got ahead of themselves, and they did admirable effort back at Anfield in the second leg, 2-0, but not quite enough to progress.
And again, that goes back to the setting out how you're going to approach this tie, and I think Arne and team will have it planned properly.
When you play at this stage of this competition, Tomo, there are always going to be threats in the opposition side. It's just a given now. A lot of threats in the PSG team. We'll dig into them in detail later in the programme, but we know with the way they play, the quality they have in those forward areas, a real onus on our full-backs to be defensively aware, but also other members within the team to help them tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously, we know we're in for a tough game. We know they'll carry threat all across the park. And I think one thing that we do need to realise is you've got to be on your mettle for the full 90 minutes or 98 minutes, because you can have a spell where, you lose concentration, 15 minutes, and the games and the legs can be gone at this level. We need to be on our mettle for full 98 minutes tonight.
It's something that the team have done quite well in terms of other members within the group helping the kind of full-backs out. At times how we play, we're used to sort of boys shifting across or slotting back in. But there's a real focus tonight to be switched on in that regard, isn't there? Because if we do give those guys, we touched on a little bit of room, a little bit of opportunity, that they're liable to take the chance. We've seen that with the games in recent weeks from Paris.
Yeah, I think, and again, depending on how Arne and the team play, the game that's really thrown me was a Man City game. I thought it was possibly the best defensive display I've seen from a team in a long while, and I'm not just talking about weeks or months, I'm talking possibly in years. I mean, it was sensational the way that Liverpool played, because Man City offered the same threat, balls over the top. I think it was a couple of times right early on, but Liverpool made that adjustment. So everyone needs to be on board with what they're doing, but having seen them employ that against City, knowing as well, and I think this is a key thing, Liverpool have threat going forward themselves. So it's kind of like, organise at the back, don't allow free opportunities, then we'll have opportunities to score goals ourselves. And as I say, it'll be interesting how they do the setup for today's game.
It's not quite sort of Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope with Liverpool this season, but it's a little bit of that at times. It is, they have spells in games where they are quite happy. We'll sit back, let you run yourselves out, and all of a sudden, when the moment's right, bang, we'll go again. And that's been a shift this season to some of the previous seasons.
I think that's obviously a credit to the manager. I think he's shown how much of a master tactician he actually is. And I think one of the big factors that I saw when we watched Liverpool v Aston Villa, when we matched them up and they had a box midfield, how we coped with overloads and how the gaffer changed it midway through the match. So he's there, he spots it. He's a master tactician, and I think we'll probably start one way today, and you'll see that he'll change it up a little bit. He might even go man for man parts of the game, depending on how we're chasing the game or if we're up in the game. You'll see that he's comfortable in changing his tactics.
One of the themes from both managers' pre-match media conferences was this whole debate of Liverpool being the best team in Europe at the moment. People like to start having these debates as the season goes on, before things have been won. That debate isn't really on the table now, is it, Jamie? You've got to win things. You've got to get the latter stages of competitions like this. You've got to pick up silver. It's all very well, yes, they topped at the league phase, but that's kind of irrelevant.
Well, I mean, I'd take that as a definite compliment for Liverpool, the Arne and the team, because ultimately they're top of the Premier League, which is recognised as the toughest league in Europe. As you say, they won the group phase comfortably, which is a top competition in Europe. So everything they've done up to this point has given them possibly that credential. But as you say, with 2 games to play against Paris Saint-Germain, who themselves are on an incredible run. I mean, only 3 defeats all season, all in the early Champions League group stage. And again, with this coefficient, has put them in a position to play Liverpool, when you would think, if you looked at what they were like coming towards the end of the tournament or that qualification stage, they're probably one of the best teams. But yeah, Liverpool deserve all the plaudits at the moment, but in order to make that stick, have to qualify.
The better question I probably should have asked them was, all this talk being thrown out about Liverpool being the best team, the key thing at this stage is not for the players to buy into it. If you start to think you're the best team, that's when you get tripped up, particularly in a 2-legged affair. It's against a very good team. Yeah,
well, I think the gaffer made a lovely point in his press conference. Obviously, Luis Enrique said they're the best team, and I think he's sort of trying to butter them up a little bit. But the gaffer was having none of that. He shot it down. He said, well, the best team is normally the one who's already won the European Cup. We've still got to get there, and we've still got a long way to go. And I think that's, the lads won't be buying into it. I think it's been a little bit of, not a fallacy, but J-Mo made the point before, when you're top of the Premier League, considered, the best league in the world, then you are going to be considered the best team in Europe, particularly when you're top in the group. But Liverpool have got a long way to go. They've got to prove themselves, and tonight is going to be a massive test for them, a huge test.
The first question that Rob put to Maka was about the fact Liverpool got no favours by winning the league phase, and that's one of the curiosities as we've kind of got to grips with this new format. When we were looking at the draw, how it could have gone, couldn't have been more difficult with the options in front of us.
Yeah. Well, I having lost in that semi-final referred to, I'd rather have lost in that semi-final than the quarter-final or the first knockout stage. Ultimately, you're going to have to, if you want to win it, and I think this is, again, where's your head at? Do you want to win the Champions League? Well, then the probability is you're going to have to face either PSG or someone as good, if not better than PSG, somewhere along that road. So play them now, beat them now. If you're going to win the Champions League, then you're going to have to beat them now. And just, as I say, reinforce it. I don't think the players will get carried away with it. It's for us to get carried away from time to time as supporters of Liverpool that they're the best. Interestingly, just quickly touching back on that point, having covered the Manchester City game when they played PSG, the in-game psychology is massive. As soon as City went 2-0 up, you could almost sense that they thought they'd done enough after dominating the first half. and PSG had nothing else but to try and win the game. And that second half, or at least 35 minutes that second half, was sensational. PSG.
As soon as they made the substitutions in that game and they threw, they took Kang off and changed the shape a little bit. It was just like the Alimo, and it could have been more. I think they hit the woodwork twice. You know, it could have been 6.
Yeah, that game is a good point to the threat that PSG can pose if you let them. OK, Arne Slot is heading into his first Champions League knockout game with Liverpool, and the boss is pleased that he's had a bit more time to get his squad prepared for the clash with PSG.
This week was the first time that we had a bit more time than all the other games we've played, because normally there were only 2 or 3 days in between. And that's definitely a good thing, because Paris Saint-Germain needs all our attention, and 2 days would probably not be enough to prepare the team well enough for this team, because I'm really impressed with what I saw. Clearly during the weekend, 4-0 lead at half-time.
Do you feel, because of the form that PSG are in, that you have got the toughest draw that you could have got?
Yeah, we could only have 2, Benfica or Paris Saint-Germain. And although I like Benfica a lot as well, I think everyone who watched football in the last few months could have told you that maybe we had a bit of a, how do you say this? Now, we would prefer probably to play against Benfica instead of Paris Saint-Germain. But this is also a great fixture to play. It's a great stadium to play. If you are playing at Liverpool, you want to play the big games. And this is definitely a big game, again, for us. So yes, we have to accept what the draw is. And it's for both teams are facing a very strong opponent. Not only us, they as well.
Are we seeing a more direct Liverpool tomorrow, you think, or you're going to try to dispute the possession with PSG?
No, I think we have to show in every part of our game the best possible performance from this season. So it's not easy to dominate ball possession against Paris Saint-Germain, because they take a lot of risk when they press. So they go man for man all over the pitch. That makes it hard for many teams to have a lot of ball possession against them. So yeah, we have to adapt really well to what's in front of us. So I've seen also a few games, mainly in the beginning of the season, where they were not as aggressive as they were in the last 10-15 games they've played when it comes to pressing. So in every part of our game we have to be on top in the best possible version of ourselves. That can mean that we have to be really well in the counter-attack. If they give us a bit more time, we have to be really good with the ball. And when they have the ball, they are, I think Luis Enrique said it himself, they're one of the best, or the best team with the ball in Europe. And he's definitely right. They are definitely one of the best teams when they have the ball, with so much attacking threat all over the pitch and so much rotations, so many players taking in different positions. So yeah, interesting game.
This match is going to be crucial, the areas on the sides. Enrique was talking about your players being air jets, you know, really fast players. You know, we have Hakimi. Hakimi plays really high sometimes, you know, even in the offensive side of the pitch. How do you think you're going to manage Hakimi tomorrow?
Yeah, I did read that Luis Enrique said that we had 3 players that were really fast up front. And again, I see a similarity because Barcola, if I pronounce his name correctly, and Dembele are also not slow. They are very, 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 very fast as well, Kvaratskhelia. So, and then there's maybe their 4th attacker, which is Hakimi, because he's playing as a fullback, but he's all the time going up and down, up and down, up and down. Maybe, again, a similarity if you look at Trent Alexander-Arnold. So, yeah, we will have a plan to be in the best possible, to show ourselves in the best possible way. That's what Paris Saint-Germain will have as well. And we will see tomorrow, if we face each other, how things work out.
What we see about PSG last couple of weeks is their reaction after they lose the ball. Their pressing is impressive. And how do you want to cope with that tomorrow?
Yeah, they are. Not only when they lose the ball, but also in every other part of the game, they are quite intense in terms of pressing. I think if there's one thing people will tell you about us is that we are quite intense as well. Maybe not always going man v man all over the pitch like Paris Saint-Germain does, but we like to press aggressive, and if we lose the ball, do the same as also. So, yeah, it's so difficult to judge before the game because, okay, they've played Lille, we've played Lille. They were already 4-0 up at half-time. I think we were 1-0 up at half-time. So that tells you how strong they are, but you cannot compare teams like that. So tomorrow we have to wait and see if they will be on top of us, and if they are, we have to suffer and we have to be like we were against City. Or hopefully we can hold the ball very well, and we can play the similar style we've played for all the other games except for the City one, and that's us dominating ball possession. We will see tomorrow what the game will bring us.
Really interesting stuff in there for the manager. What I think is really refreshing about Arne this season is just his willingness to engage on tactical decisions about how they'll approach teams. A lot of managers just fob it off, but he takes it head on. And the point he made there, Tomo, this Liverpool team can adapt, can play in different ways depending on what the circumstances require.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's really proven himself this year, Arne Slot, you know, to be a master tactician. But he's up against another manager today, and you can see the mind games have just begun between the two managers. You see them trying to bat it off, but it is going to be an intriguing game, such an exciting game. I can't wait for it to start today.
Top of the show sort of played down Liverpool's achievements in topping the league phase and sort of dampened expectation perhaps, but I guess to build it back up again, 4 of the sides Liverpool played to get to this point made it through to the last 16. So that underlines that, you know, the results they got weren't against kind of, you know, pushovers. They beat some very good teams to top that league table.
Yeah, they've done fantastically well. As I say, I just think the way that the coefficient works has obviously led to Paris Saint-Germain being one of the best teams at the moment in Europe up against Liverpool, where you wouldn't have seen that given they lost the 3 games. But sort of just touching on what Tomo says there, I think there's a side to Arne's tactical awareness, which is, you know, largely dependent on the data team as well, the analysis team. Of course, as a top coach, you can see things happening on the pitch, but you get that reassurance. In his absence from the touchline the other day against Newcastle, he was actually sat just behind us, and you could hear the conversation to a point with his analysis team. And I think that's the thing, these players can't escape their data, the PSG players that is, and there'll be certain players that I'm sure they've identified as, I say weaknesses because they are beatable. And like Thomas said, I mean, it's going to be a fascinating game, but Liverpool have done well in their qualification, and I expect them to continue to do well.
I think there's a real confidence in the management team and the analysis team from the players, because you can see it sometimes this year. They can't wait to get in at half-time to discover what's gone on for the opposition, to see how they can counter it. There's the utmost confidence in the team that they are going to come out and counter it, and they've showed it so many times this year.
Touch on the fact that the last game was Newcastle, it was a week ago. That is a rarity. How beneficial do you think that time will have been for the manager to get his message across ahead of a game of this importance?
Well, I think, I'm sure we've spoken about it before. I mean, there's been a couple of games this season in particular, Nottingham Forest and Chelsea at home, even though the latter was a win, where Arne hasn't had the team because they've been away on international duty. So you don't see Liverpool playing, and you just think in some respects they might have a bit of a breather. I think this time has been good because he's actually been able to get on the training field. I'm just watching these goals here, and I think we're going to see both sides do a lot of this. Where other teams may look for shots, there are players making movement. And again, this is, we're talking about fullbacks having to be helped out. I think everybody in that defensive position from midfield will be helping out because there'll be so many players moving all around. Liverpool have done it fantastic this season, and PSG have done it multiple times in the Champions League.
They have done it multiple times, and that, if you look at most of Hakimi's goals, he's coming onto the ball from a deep position and he's unmarked in the box and he's just got a tap in. So that's something we're going to have to be careful of today.
I just hope that's what they do in training, because then they'll be used to it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things they've been able to work on in that 7 days you would have expected. That Newcastle result finished that 5 games in 15 days. A lot was made about this at the point where Liverpool's season could crumble. This could be where they trip up. Points return of 11 from a possible 15. Jim, I think that's a pretty solid return given the games that were in front of them.
Well, I think what's been really good, and again, this is the Arne show today, isn't it? You look at the Everton game, late goal, people say it felt like a defeat, whatever, but it was a good point against a good team in the end, because Everton at home have been very good. The Villa game, Villa have lost one home game all season. That was the first game of the season. So in the end, it was a good result where teams have lost. And you look, when you're amassing points and amassing the season, you look at it and go, okay, good performances, excuse me, good results in the end. The Newcastle game wasn't the most magnificent performance, but it was
comfortable, wasn't it?
It was enough. The Man City game, which Arne was referring to there, as I say, best defensive performance I've seen. And it was just another side to Liverpool, which was like, are they capable of doing this? And they did it superbly.
It's the mindset as well. You've come through that spell where a lot of people have been predicting you downfall. You get a good return. You don't lose any of the games. You get a big result against City as well. You come up against Newcastle, and again, it was pretty comfortable, if not spectacular, all the way through. The mindset going into this week's training ahead of this game, you can kind of put the league to bed for a bit and forget about it rather than worry about results and things, because you're in such a good position. So it's a really good lead into this game.
It's been a great lead in, and I think the City game and then the Aston Villa game, you'll see elements of PSG's game which are similar to Man City and a mix of Aston Villa. So we've already encountered the problems. We've overcome them problems, we've come out of them unscathed. If we come out of this match today unscathed, taking them back to Anfield, I think it's something we should look forward to.
It's also that sense as a player of an opportunity in front of you. The boys in that squad will look at it and think, we're in a really good position to have not just a good season, a great season, if we are focused in the next fortnight, 2 months.
Yeah, I would argue that was probably the call from day one, just be focused for 9 months.
Easier to focus though when the prize is a little bit closer.
I don't know what Arne's goal setting is like, whether it is monthly, whether it's bi-monthly, whatever. And it's an interesting point you make there where you say, don't worry about the league, now concentrate on the Champions League. I think there's a part to that kind of approach to football which can be very disarming in a sense, and I think with the FA Cup defeat probably proved that this is more about just play games. I know obviously the squad was not as strong as it possibly could have been, but getting knocked out of the FA Cup hasn't gone against Liverpool's season.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that was a lack of focus, or do you think it was a deliberate effort where they didn't mind going out the cup?
No, I just think the beauty of the FA Cup is you can get knocked out by a team a league below you or 2 leagues below you, whatever. And I just think on the day it just didn't work for Liverpool. But it didn't stop the sort of forward momentum of the performances after it. Therefore, I think it's play the game, not the competition. And today's game against Paris Saint-Germain is independent. I know it's over 2 legs, and we've sort of said that at the beginning. But there will be a plan for this game. Arne's the one who's thinking about the sort of the duality of the tie.
I suppose the argument is you've gone out the FA Cup, make it a positive by using this 7 days to get yourself in the best shape for this game and go through. If you don't go through here, you go out, all of a sudden that FA Cup defeat doesn't start to look as
So you're
having
pressure
delivered
on them
any benefits. Anyway, that's enough for the moment. It's time for our viewers on social media to leave us. Our Matchday Live build-up will continue though on LFC TV after the break. If you are watching this and you're not yet a subscriber, you can find out details of how to sign up online. It's on the screen now, liverpoolfc.com/watch. Coming up in the rest of our pre-match show, we'll look ahead to the game with Wataru Endo. Just before kick-off at 8, Steve Hunter will have Phil Thompson alongside him to guide you through all of the action as well. And then we'll be back with live audio commentary for the game 2 with the boys. And then after full-time, it is the 2 Tomos who'll be with me to discuss events over in Paris. That post-match show will also be available to listen to in the reaction later on the club's official podcast platform. Plus, you can watch the full game on LFC TV from midnight. We are heading to a break just now, but if you are sticking with us on LFC TV, coming up, we'll turn our attention to our host this evening, Paris Saint-Germain. We're back soon.
Liverpool. 1st of September 18.